Ifeoma, come and see. Is this not your husband? This is why our site security is failing there. We have area boys eating inside a 5 billion naira project.
He is not an area boy. He is my husband. And if he is here, he has a reason to be here.
His reason is that he followed his wife to work. Ifeoma, I have tried to be patient with you, but this embarrassment ends today.
They say in Lagos, the city never sleeps, but it also never looks too carefully. It is too busy moving, too busy chasing, too busy measuring every man by the cut of his clothes and the weight of his car keys. And that is exactly why what happened on a Friday afternoon in Lekki shook people the way it did. Because the city had looked at one man every single day and seen nothing. And it had been wrong about everything. This is the story of Tega and the woman who never stopped believing in him. Stay with me. Let's dive in. Tega was the kind of man Lagos had no patience for. Every morning, without fail, he walked his wife, Ifeoma, to the bus stop on their street in Surulere. He wore simple clothes, a plain shirt, trousers that had seen better years, and shoes worn at the heel. He didn't drive. He didn't speak loudly. He carried himself the way a man carries himself when he has decided that he has nothing to prove to anyone. The neighbors watched him the way Lagos people watch someone they have already judged. They whispered behind their gates. They wondered out loud what a woman like Ifeoma was doing with a man like that. Ifeoma was beautiful, hard-working, sharp. She deserved someone going somewhere, they said. Not a man who spent his days at an unfinished building at the edge of Lekki, surrounded by cement bags and rusty iron rods, looking like he belonged to the dust. What they did not know, what nobody on that street knew, was that Tega was not wandering. He was watching. He was waiting. And the unfinished building they pitied him for standing beside every day? He owned it. Every single block of it. But that part of the story comes later. Ifeoma worked as a junior secretary at a high-end real estate firm on the island. She had worked there for 2 years, and in those 2 years, she had learned one thing above everything else. Her boss, Mr. Collins, was a man who believed that a person's value could be read from their accessories. Mr. Collins was tall, loud, and permanently impressed with himself. He wore designer suits that he mentioned by name in conversation. He drove a car he had financed on a salary he exaggerated, and he had made it his personal mission, for reasons Ifeoma had never fully understood, to remind her regularly that her life was a disappointment. It started small, a comment here, a raised eyebrow there, but over time it had grown into something more deliberate. "Ifeoma," he said one morning, not looking up from his phone, "is that the same bag from last week? Or do you only own one?" The office went quiet the way offices do when a senior person says something cruel and everyone pretends they didn't hear it. Ifeoma looked up from her desk calmly. "It carries everything I need, sir," she said. Collins smirked. "That husband of yours needs to do better. What does he even do again? Supervises sand?" A few people laughed nervously. Ifeoma did not respond. She turned back to her screen and continued typing, her face still, her jaw tight. But inside, something she refused to call hurt moved quietly through her chest. That evening, Tega was already home when she arrived. He had cooked, a small pot of egusi soup and a wrap of eba, the way he always did on evenings he sensed she needed something warm waiting for her. She sat down without saying much at first. He placed the food in front of her and sat across from her. "Talk to me," he said. Ifeoma looked at the soup. Then she looked at him. "Do you ever get tired of this, Tega? The way people look at us? The things they say?" Tega was quiet for a moment. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "What did he say this time?" She told him. Tega listened without interrupting. When she finished, he reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "Ifeoma," he said quietly, Do you trust me? She looked at him, not the question she expected. You know I do. Then hold on a little longer, he said. Just a little longer. She searched his face. There was something there she could never fully reach, a calm that went too deep, a steadiness that didn't match the circumstances of a man simply managing. She had noticed it before. She had filed it away in a place she didn't visit too often. Okay, she said softly, and she meant it. This is the part where things start to shift. But before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to African Tales with Oru yet, please do that right now. Because the kind of story we tell here, the kind that builds slowly and then hits you all at once, this is what this channel is built for. Subscribe so the next story finds you automatically, and drop your country flag in the comments. We want to know exactly where in the world you are watching from. Now, let's go back to Tega and Ifeoma, because Friday is coming. The announcement came on a Monday.
Mr. Collins walked into the office holding a printed itinerary with the energy of a man announcing his own coronation. He set copies on every desk without making eye contact. The gesture of someone who has already decided the room is beneath them. It was an invitation to a client appreciation site visit. That Friday, a new luxury estate in Lekki. The biggest private residential project the city had seen in years. High net worth clients, investors, politicians, staff were expected to be present, dressed corporately, 1 hour before the clients arrived. Ifeoma read the address on the paper. Something moved in her stomach, a small, quiet thing she couldn't name. She folded the paper and put it aside. That evening, she mentioned it to Tega. He was quiet when she told him. He looked at the address she showed him and nodded slowly. I know that site, he said. Have you worked near there? She asked. Something like that, he said. Then he smiled at her, that same deep, steady smile. Dress well on Friday, Ifeoma. She laughed softly. It's a work event, not a party. Still, he said, dress well. Friday arrived the way important days always do, looking exactly like every other day, until it doesn't. Ifeoma wore her blue corporate dress, the small pearl earrings Tega had bought her from a roadside seller on her last birthday, wrapped in tissue paper, presented like a treasure. She stood in front of the mirror and remembered what he had said when he gave them to her. One day you'll wear these somewhere that matches them. She fastened them carefully and went out to meet the morning. Tega walked her to the bus stop as always. He held her hand at the corner the way he always did, and just before the bus came, he looked at her for a moment, really looked at her, and said, "Whatever happens today, just remember who you are." She laughed. "It's just a site visit, Tega." He nodded. "I know," he said. "Go well." The estate swallowed her whole the moment she stepped through the gates. The entrance alone announced that this was not ordinary. Black steel gates with clean lines, landscaped grounds even in construction, a main building that rose several floors against the Lagos sky, all glass and stone and intention. Even unfinished, it had a presence, the kind that made people unconsciously straighten their posture when they walked inside. Ifeoma moved through the morning professionally, helping with hospitality as the clients arrived one by one in their quiet, expensive convoy. Mr. Collins was transformed in their presence, softer, smoother, performing a version of himself that bore little resemblance to the man who mocked secretaries about their handbags. The tour moved through the ground floor, then the staircase, then the upper rooms, each space larger and more considered than the last, every window placed to catch the light perfectly, every ceiling high enough to make a person feel both small and elevated at the same time. Ifeoma found herself wondering, more than once, who had dreamed all of this. They reached the grand parlor. It was the largest room in the building, floor-to-ceiling windows, the Atlantic Ocean visible in the distance, flat and permanent, the way it has always been and will always be. Mr. Collins was mid-sentence, something about Italian marble and imported fixtures, when Ifeoma saw him. In the far corner of the room, sitting on a stack of wood planks, completely unbothered, eating bread and groundnut and looking out at the ocean with the calm of a man sitting in his own living room, was Tega. The white shirt, the brown trousers, the familiar way he pinched the groundnut before placing it in his mouth. Ifeoma stopped breathing. Before she could move, before she could think, before she could do anything at all, Mr. Collins turned and saw him too, and the smile that spread across Collins' face was the smile of a man who believed God had personally handed him a gift. He turned to the clients first, made sure they were all watching. Then he raised his voice across the room.
Ifeoma,
He called out, laughing already.
and see, is this not your husband? This is why our site security is failing there. We have area boys eating inside a 5 billion naira project.
The clients turned. Some frowned. One or two exchanged glances. Ifeoma's face burned, but her feet moved, not away from Tega, but toward him. She crossed the room and stood beside her husband. He is not an area boy, she said,
He is my husband.
her voice steady despite
And if he is
everything.
Here, he has a reason to
He
be
is my
here.
husband, and if he is here, he has a reason to be here. Collins threw his head back. His reason is that he followed his wife to work. Ifeoma, I have tried to be patient with you, but this... He gestured at Tega with open disgust. This embarrassment ends today. You are fired, both of you. Get out of my building before I call security. The room was silent. Tega wiped his hands slowly on a small cloth beside him. He stood up, and something changed in the room the moment he reached his full height. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was the way the air changes before something large and inevitable arrives. He reached into his pocket, not the cracked phone he carried on ordinary days, a different one, sleek, clean, the kind that does not need to announce itself. He made one call. "Security," he said, his voice calm and absolute. "Please escort Mr. Collins off the premises. His firm's contract with this project is terminated, effective immediately. Prepare the paperwork." The silence that followed was the kind that has weight. Collins laughed, the automatic laugh of a man whose brain has not yet caught up with the situation. "What? Who do you think you are calling? This is my..." "Your contract," Tega said quietly, "was with Omokri and Sons Development. I am Tega Omokri." He paused. "This is my building, this is my land, and you are standing in my living room." One of the clients, a man who had been quiet the entire tour, a heavyweight in banking circles whose name opened doors in 3 countries, stepped forward. His voice was almost a whisper. "Collins," he said, "you fool, do you know how long I have been trying to get a meeting with this man?" Collins turned to him, then back to Tega. His mouth opened. Nothing came. 3 men in dark suits appeared at the parlor entrance. They moved to Collins with the quiet efficiency of people who have done this before. He found his voice then, loud, desperate, suddenly very small. Wait, I didn't know. Please, I have a family." Tega did not watch him go. He was looking at Ifeoma. She was standing very still, her pearl earrings catching the light from the ocean-facing windows. Her eyes were moving across his face the way you search a place you thought you knew, and are only now truly seeing. "Tega," she said, just his name. But the way she said it carried everything. The 3 years of walking to bus stops, the kerosene stove, the agouti soup on hard evenings, the neighbors' whispers she had absorbed without flinching, the handbag comments she had swallowed without breaking. He walked to her. "I need you to hear something," he said. She waited. "Before you," he said, "I had everything Lagos says a man should have. and I had nothing that actually mattered. Women came and stayed for the building, not the man inside it. So I left the building behind and went looking for someone who would find me in the dust. His voice was steady, but his eyes were full. You found me, Ifeoma. Every single morning you chose me. Not the cars, not the name. Me. She was crying now, not loudly, the quiet kind of crying that comes from something finally landing after carrying it too long. You should have told me, she whispered. I know, he said. I was afraid. Of what? That you would love the secret instead of the man. She shook her head slowly. Then she stepped forward and held him the way a person holds something they almost lost without knowing it was ever in danger. Around them, the client stood in respectful silence. The ocean sat in the distance, unchanged, unbothered, the way it always is. They say in Lagos, the city moves too fast to look carefully at anything. But on that Friday afternoon, in a grand parlor overlooking the Atlantic, the city looked carefully at one thing: a woman in pearl earrings and a man in dusty clothes, standing in the most expensive room in Nigeria, holding each other like the building around them was the least important thing in it. Tega rebuilt the estate. He finished it the way he had always planned, carefully, patiently, with his name on it. And the first room he furnished was the grand parlor, with 2 chairs facing the ocean, one for him, one for Ifeoma, because the man who walked her to the bus stop every morning was the same man who had been building her a view of the ocean all along. He just needed her to trust the dust first. Some people will look at where you're standing and decide who you are. Let them look. Just make sure you know what you are building. If this story moved something in you, you are exactly who this channel is made for. Subscribe to African Tales with Oru. New stories every week, built to make you feel every word. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And the next story? It is already on your screen. Click on it and watch that one. Yes, that one right there. I'll see you in the next one.